What I'm doing right now is removing this electrical connector and all the hoses that are connected to this throttle body. That way when we pull out these bolts right here, we'll be able to separate the throttle body from the intake manifold. This clip, all you gotta do is just press it in and pull it out. That's good. Get that a little bit. Once you have the bolts removed from the throttle body, it should just come out just like this. We're just gonna leave it hanging here for now. Alright, the throttle body off, we can now it's time to take off the fuel rail. This wiring harness has got to come off. Looks like there are some little clips that are attached to the studs of the bolt. So what we're going to do is just pop off the wire clamps, just like that. Once the two bolts that are holding the fuel rail are removed, you can just go ahead and slightly tug on the fuel rail to pop it out. So on the fuel rail, there's two little spacers right here. What I like to do is take pictures for reference. So when I go back to reinstall, I know where these items go. It's little spacers. Now with these injectors removed and just hanging here, we still need to take care of them. Just in case we get this car up and running, we'll need to reinstall these. So what I'm gonna do is just put these extra gloves over here, right on top of them, just like that. This is just to make sure there's no debris that goes inside these injectors. Helps keep them clean for the reinstall. Now that they're all wrapped up, we're just gonna leave this to the side. Pull the rest of this wiring harness off. Make sure nothing's connected to the head. Looks like everything's off for now. Since we're up here anyways, we'll go ahead and remove this radiator hose, since it's connected to the top of the head. It's gotta come out at some point, so we'll go ahead and take it out. Before you do this, make sure you drain the radiator so none of that fluid drips down to the floor. So we're going to remove this clamp. Try to pull it out. It's not going to come out. But what you can do is take a little screwdriver or a little pry bar. Just kind of easily pry it in between the holes and the head. Just kind of like that, just to go ahead and get it loose. Once that's done, you should be able to turn it and pull it out. Alright, awesome. Nothing's coming out because we already drained it. Now it's time to go ahead and try to get this intake manifold off. Here we got two bolts on top. This is what it looks like. One right here, and one right here. Looks like it's gonna be 12 millimeters, so I'll get this nice long wrench to help give me some leverage. What I'm gonna do is put it on here. I'm gonna go to this side, push against the motor. This hand's gonna pull towards me. Hopefully that'll do the trick as far as breaking this. Okay. Alright. Looks like that did the trick. Same for this one. go ahead and remove whatever hoses that are attached to the head and the intake manifold. We can probably just do this for now. Electrical connector. Now we need to get the last bolt that's on the intake manifold. Unfortunately, it's underneath the car. So I got the vehicle on jack stands. We'll leave this jack in place, help support the vehicle. So all we gotta do is just crawl underneath, hit the last bolt, and we'll see if this intake manifold will come off the vehicle. Here's that last bolt. Hopefully you guys can see it, but gotta get this last bolt out. The last one hole in this intake manifold. We'll go ahead and take her out, see if we can get this manifold off. Hell yeah. Looks like we did it. That's what I'm talking about, right there. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There she is, folks. This screw came out with this socket extractor. Took some banging and clanging around with the hammer, but we were able to break this torque loose and get this bolt out. Let's go ahead and get this manifold off. Looks like the only way we can do it is gotta climb back inside this car, so let's get to it. Okay. Alright, this manifold, we're just gonna set it down here. We don't need to try to wiggle it out because we're gonna have a hard time to wiggle it back in or try to put it back in here. This is good enough just so we can take the valve cover off and then take the head bolts out and then just lift off the head, to change the head gasket. Everything looks good back here. Yeah, looks like we're almost there, guys. Let's take a little closer look at the intake manifold. This thing, completely made out of plastic. Plastic intake manifold. How crazy is that? We'll take a closer look at this intake manifold. Here is where the intake runners go inside of the head. The air is going to go inside the intake manifold through the runners and into the top of the head right here. So what's going to happen is this air is going to go inside the head. It's going to mix with gas and air, and then the spark plug is going to send the spark, boom, giving you that horsepower. We'll go ahead and get this belt off. In order to get this belt off, you gotta use a 19mm socket on this tensioner right here. So we're gonna put this socket on here. So if you're facing the engine, you want to pull towards you. And just kind of slip the belt off while you're holding it down. Alright, let's get this alternator off. It's going to be a 14mm bolt holding the top bracket in. Stick this wrench on here. Try to break the torque. Okay. The sound of torque breaking. That's the top one. For the second bolt holding this alternator, there's a 12mm bolt right underneath this pulley. Can't get the camera under there, but once you feel it, you'll be able to see where it's at. So let me 12mm. There. Let's break this torque. Okay. There it is. Once he's unbolted, he's kind of wiggle it off the bracket. Now comes the alternator. Next thing we gotta do is take this engine mount off. So before I do that, I think what I'm gonna do is take an extra jack that I have and just support the engine from the bottom. I'll probably put a block of wood in between the jack and the oil pan down there. Kind of help support this motor. It'll help make taking off these bolts easier, and it'll help keep the motor from dropping down. Next thing we're gonna do is support this motor. Got the jack underneath the car. Put this block of wood on top of this jack right here, so when we jack it up, you don't mess up the oil pan. Should be good. With the way the engine's supported by the jack down there, this engine mount should be able to come off a little easier. Gonna be two 14mm. I'm gonna use this long extension bar to break this torque. Time to get this one same thing, 14 millimeter. All right. This bracket looks like it's gotta come off too, so we'll go ahead and take this bracket off as well. Yeah, this bracket's gotta come off. Looks like 3 more down here. 3 more bolts down here. That's gotta come off as well. What I'm doing is breaking the torque and then using the drill. What I'm doing right now is just looking down into this whole area right here. Gotta figure out what's holding this timing cover on. So I'm gonna remove everything that's attached to it. It kinda looks like this belt tensioner. It's gotta come off because it's bolted right through there. Looks like this power steering pump's gotta come off as well. And then we're just gonna slowly go one at a time and figure out what's attached to the timing cover. With the vehicle on jacks, I'm gonna take this wheel off. The reason I'm taking the wheel off is on the lower half of this timing cover. It's gonna make it easier to access those bolts from the wheel well. So I'm gonna take this wheel off. I'm gonna take this little covering piece off, held in by 2 10mm bolts here and here. Take them off. Down here we're gonna have to remove this motor mount right here because there's a bracket right here that attaches onto the timing cover. So we'll go ahead and take off this motor mount. There's 2 more nuts you gotta take out to get this motor mount out. Let's go ahead and take those out. These other ones over here. Looks like there's one more right here. This one's a 17 as well. We gotta get this piece out somehow. Okay, so she kind of wants to come out. Alright, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna jack the engine up. Hopefully when we jack this engine up, this will come right off and we can pull this right out. So I'm gonna slowly jack up the engine. Okay, yeah, that looks like it might do it alright. A little bit more. Okay. It's gonna come out. Alright. With that motor mount removed, we gotta take out this bracket to get to this timing bolt cover bolt back behind the bracket. So it's gonna be these 3 bolts right here. 1, 2, 3. All 14 millimeter. Just gotta take them on out. This timing cover, looks like she got 3 bolts down here. 1, 2, 3. But we're gonna wait before we loosen those. We're gonna get the rest of these bolts out first. Looks like this gotta come off. This little thing's gotta come off, and then up here I'm gonna lower the engine again so we can access the bolts to the power steering pulley. Before we lower this engine, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and take off this serpentine belt tensioner right here. Since we have access to the lower bolt, we're gonna undo this lower bolt first. There's one more bolt up top. We'll get the one up top. Here's that other bolt from the top side. We'll try to take it out to see if she'll come out. Alright, with this engine jacked up a little bit more, we should have enough clearance to take this bolt out now. Well, it's not gonna come out completely, but just kind of wiggle it like that. We're gonna go underneath the car real quick to pop the bottom side out, and then we should be able to pull it out from the top. Well, I thought it was gonna come out from the top, but this tensioner pulley just came crashing down. Now we gotta remove the power steering pump. Gotta unbolt it so we can slide it out of the way. So we can get this timing cover off. There's 2 bolts holding it in. One right here. And then there's another one up here. I'm just not gonna have the camera angle for it. So there's 2 of them. One here. Both 14mm. Let's see if we can get him out. I had to jack the engine back up to get the top mounting bolt of this power steering bracket loose. Get it out. I jacked back up. Now let's get this power steering motor out of the way. Should pop right on out. Underneath here, we're at the crankshaft pulley. On this pulley, there's a little indent right here. And then there's also degree markings right here, 0, 5, and 10. So what we're trying to do is get the piston at top dead center. So we're gonna rotate this pulley, get this indent matched up with the marking right here for 0 degrees. That'll make sure the piston's at top dead center. But we'll also have to verify the camshafts once we get the valve cover off to make sure that it's truly at top dead center. So there's markings up there as well as markings down here. So the bottom is gonna match the top. That's how you know it'll be at top dead center once all the markings are lined up. All this is for timing purposes. So we'll get this cleaned off a little so we can see the numbers better. Then we'll go ahead and rotate this. What we're gonna use is this 19mm socket. And we're just gonna slowly rotate this pulley. Line this marker up with 0 degrees. Looks like she's at 10, 5, 0. Back up top, we're gonna go ahead and take off this valve cover. Should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 or 10, maybe 10. 10mm bolts. We'll just go ahead and get them out real quick. Alright, that should do it. Those 8 around the outside, 2 in the middle. All you gotta do is just slowly lift her up. Okay, there she goes. Valve cover removed. Up on top, you have this long indent right here. And then right here, there's a little arrow right here. So you want to line up this indent with the arrow that's right here. It's a tiny little arrow. You want to make sure that's lined up. And then on the other side right here, this little indent, if you look right behind here, there is a little arrow right behind this bolt right here. Right behind this bolt, there's a little arrow. Can't see it on camera, I can't get the angle correct, but you line up that indent right here with the arrow that's right behind this bolt head right here. Now we know that the number 1 cylinder is top dead center. I'm gonna start taking this timing cover off. Because just a whole bunch of bolts around the outside of this cover. I probably won't be able to get the camera on all of them, but there's one here, a couple more down there. And we'll just go around this whole cover, taking off all these bolts. Back up top, 2 nuts back here, holding in the timing chain tensioner. I don't want to, but it's probably gonna be easier if I take off this water pump. Just gonna go ahead and take off the water pump. Make things a little bit easier. One timing cover, almost off. One timing cover off. With the timing cover off, we're gonna slip off this timing chain right here. Just comes off like this. I didn't have the camera angle, but there's this bolt that sits in like this. Just unbolt it, comes right on out. That's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna take the rest of it off. We're just gonna leave the rest of it on. We just need this chain loose enough so we can free it off this cam gear, so we can separate the head from the block. We are just gonna leave this other piece on and then just move this out of the way for now. I'm just gonna stay on down here. It'll be fine. We're not gonna take this off. We just leave it on. Next thing we gotta do is take these camshafts off. Once we take the camshafts off, we'll be able to access the cylinder head bolts. They're beneath the camshafts. So we'll go ahead and take off the camshafts, take out the cylinder head bolts, unbolt this head. To get these camshafts off, you gotta loosen all these bolts up here. These over here, 10 millimeters. These are 12s right here. Go ahead and loosen them up real quick. Alright, once you got these top pieces off, this camshaft, all you gotta do is just lift it up. There you go. To the other Camry camshaft. Now let's get the other side. Dylan, come on. Okay. Got you. Same thing. Lift up. There you go. The other camshaft. We're gonna take out the head bolts. There's 10 of them, 5 on each side. There's supposed to be a certain order you're gonna do them. So it's gonna be this one first, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the middle ones, 9, 10. To get the head bolts out, you're gonna need to use this specialty tool. This is a 10mm socket. This is made to take off these head bolts for these Toyota vehicles. Got this breaker bar, but I don't think it's gonna be long enough. So we're gonna extend it with this pipe. Hopefully, we'll get that extra leverage to break the torque on these head bolts. Oh gosh. Now that we have all the head bolts removed, we're just gonna try to lift up on the head. If that doesn't work, we're just gonna slowly pry it off the block. Oh, there you go. And then just lift it off. Oh Oh, there you go. With this head off, let's take a closer look at the gasket, see what's going on. Let's take a closer look at this head gasket. So we can tell these two outer cylinders, they're nice and dry, but these two inner ones, you can see there's water in them. So that's actually coolant. So this white scoring down the middle right here, that's where the head gasket went. That's how water is entering these two cylinders. Inside of this head, I'm just going to try to wipe everything down the best as I can. And then the mating surface is right here, where the gasket goes. Just want to make sure that's clean and free of any debris. That's going to keep the seal from sealing properly. All this old oil mixture of coolant, I'm just going to try to get as much as it off. Wipe everything out and call it good. It's time to get this block prepped. What we're going to do is just go ahead and remove this old gasket. What I'm doing here is just peeling off the old gasket material, so when we go back to put the timing chain cover back on, we can seal it properly, make sure nothing leaks. Here's a new head gasket. I got this one from a local auto parts store. This one ran me $72. This block is ready for the install, so we're gonna go ahead and put this gasket right on top of those block. Once that's done, we'll put the head back on and then put everything back together. I'm going to drop these head bolts back in to the head. Got them in a nice woolly bag. I'm just going to finger tight these head bolts. Once they're finger tight, I'm going to come back around with a torque wrench and apply about 50 foot-pounds of torque. Starting from the middle, then just working my way out. After everything's torqued down to 50 foot-pounds, I'm gonna go back over the head bolts again and then do it a quarter turn. So torque them down to 50, and then once they're all torqued, an extra quarter turn. It's time to set this torque wrench 50 foot-pounds and torque her down. Okay. Alright, everything's torqued down to 50 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna go quarter turn with this breaker bar. So quarter turn. Okay. So I get the camshafts on. Just gonna put it back on as one assembly. Time to start torquing them down. 8 inch-pounds on these little guys, 22 foot-pounds on these two bigger guys. So here on the cam gear, you're gonna make sure the indent is in the middle of the yellow link right here. And then you're gonna make sure that this is in line with the yellow link, and then the yellow link is in line with this little arrow back here. So 1, 2, 3, all that's gotta be aligned. Same thing over here. You just wanna make sure that this indent is in the middle of this yellow link, and then it's lined up with the arrow back behind here. So 3 things gotta be aligned. This indent in the middle of the yellow link, and then that's gotta line up with this arrow. Alright, so down here on the crankshaft pulley, you want to make sure this little dot is in the middle of this pink chain link. Once that's lined up, you'll know everything's all in time. Now all we gotta do is just put the tensioners back on and put the timing cover back on. Alright, what I'm doing now is carefully putting on this guide back on here without messing any of this up. Fast forward, we went ahead and rebolted everything back on this engine. We've already changed the oil. We had to refill the power steering fluid, and then we just got done filling up the coolant. So now all we gotta do is just start up the engine and see what happens. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna prime the fuel pump to make sure there's fuel up at the injector. So I'm just gonna prime it a couple times, then I'll give it a start. Alright, this is the white smoke. It's just got to burn off all the rest of the coolant that's still in the piston rings. So once all that burns out, it should clear up. Alright, temperature is good. No check engine lights. Alright, so she's been idling for about a good 15 minutes. I just been massaging this radiator hose trying to get all the air bubbles out. So far it's looking good. The fans came on earlier. Temperature is steady. No check engine lights. Let's take a look at this tailpipe. No more white smoke coming out. Whatever's left in there was just residual that was just burning off. Now most of it's burnt off, and then it's just idling just normal. Been driving this Camry for about a month now, just here and there around town. We're gonna take it on the interstate, see how she does on the interstate with some acceleration tests, and then if it all checks out, we'll go ahead and change the oil, change the spark plugs, change the air filter, change the coolant, get all the fluids changed, and this car should be good to go. We're about to hit the interstate on the on-ramp. We'll see how this acceleration test does. Hopefully this car checks out and don't leave me stranded on the interstate. But driving around town, she's been doing really well around town. No issues around town. Drives like a Camry. So sit back and enjoy the ride until we get back to the garage. 8. So I'm talking about Camry power. Well, I guess it doesn't help that the air filter is still that nasty, raggedy looking air filter, and the spark plugs are all fouled up. We'll head over to the auto parts store. I think this car can get some new plugs. You know, I think it should be fine. Got a little wheel spin. Alright, we just pulled out of the auto parts store. We picked up whole new set of spark plugs, engine air filter, and an upper radiator hose. Once we get back to the garage, we'll go ahead and swap it all out. This car should be good to go. Well, it's already been good to go, but I didn't want to buy these items and replace them without driving the vehicle around for like a couple of weeks or so. So that's what I've been doing past couple of weeks with this car. It actually runs and drives around town just fine, and taking it up to the interstate, had no issues on the interstate as well. So this car can definitely get a little money spent on it to change those items out. We got the Camry back in the garage. I'm gonna go ahead and check this oil, make sure it's at the proper level. It looks good so far. And what I'm also looking for is any evidence of coolant mixed in here. But it doesn't look like there's any coolant mixing in here, so the head gasket job that we did a couple months ago still holding up good, considering that we just came back from the interstate beating this car up. So it looks like the head gasket is good. So we'll go ahead and replace the spark plugs, the engine oil, this coolant. We're not going to touch it right now because everything is still pressurized and it's still hot. So we're going to let this engine cool down before we open this up. If you open this up while it's hot and pressurized, that coolant's going to spill out everywhere and you'll probably end up burning yourself. So we're going to let this car sit for about 2 hours before we do anything to it. We'll also replace this upper radiator hose. This one's pretty brittle, having 260,000 miles on it, so I'm not going to trust it much longer if I'm going to take this car in the interstate. Aside from this, we'll go ahead and change out the air filter as well too. So it's just on here for now, but once I get everything swapped out, we'll go ahead and put all the trim and covering pieces on this motor, make it look all nice and new again, and then this car should be good to go. The engine's cool enough now, so we're going to go ahead and get started with all this work. We'll go ahead and take these coil packs off. It's going to be a 10mm bolt. All you got to do is just take the bolt out and remove the coil pack. This coil pack just comes out like this. We're going to do them one at a time so we don't get mixed up. Go ahead and take the spark plug out. There you go. Now for the spark plugs, I just went ahead and got the cheapest ones from my local auto parts store. These are Autolite Iridiums XP. They're the cheapest one, but for this car, I really don't care. It's just a work car, so I'm gonna put the cheap stuff in here. Once you get the old one out, just go ahead and drop the new one in there. Tighten her down. What I'm doing now is just taking a flashlight and shining it down through this cylinder just to see if it's wet. But the top of the piston head is nice and dry, so we know that the head gasket is working and no coolant is leaking in there. So we'll go ahead and put the rest of these spark plugs in. Here's a close-up of both spark plugs. The one on the left is the new one. The one on the right is the old one. On the old one, the tip is all corroded and rounded off. That's another good reason for us to go ahead and swap out these spark plugs. Overall, it should help improve the performance of this vehicle. Once all their spark plugs are in, just go ahead and hook up these electrical connectors back onto the coil packs. Make sure they're all nice and snug. Then you'll go ahead and put on these bolts for the coil packs. You just want to go hand tight first. Then just snug them down so they're not moving around. We'll come over here to this air box and go ahead and replace it with this new air filter. On this car, two 10mm bolts holding it down. Just want to take them off. Back from mounting off. Take it off. Take the old one out. Here's that old one I was talking about. On the top side it's going to look clean, but on the bottom side where all the air is coming up and through, this one's kind of dirty, so we'll go ahead and swap it out real quick with the new one. There. Take a look at that. We'll pop this new one in. Alright, that's it for the air filter. Got the old one out, the new one in. Really not necessary, but I forgot to put a splash guard on, so I gotta take off this wheel to reinstall the splash guard. But it'll also help us gain access to the oil filter and make things easier. Got the oil pan underneath the oil drain plug. All we gotta do is just go ahead and loosen up this oil drain plug right here. Start draining the oil. That's probably about good enough. Once it starts dripping slowly like that, you can probably go ahead and reinstall the drain plug and tighten her down. Down. Alright, now we'll go ahead and get this oil filter off. Alright, once you got the old filter off, go ahead and get your new one. And I'm gonna keep doing the way I've always been doing this. I'll pre-fill this oil filter. Once it's pre-filled, I'll go ahead and install it. Go ahead and pour the new oil in here. Lubricate this O-ring. And now, she's ready to go back on. So again, hand tight the installation. Make sure that it's not cross-threaded. Once you get it on there hand tight, go ahead and snug it down. Now we gotta drain the coolant. On the coolant drain, I hooked up this rubber tube to the drain. That way it'll be less messy. It's just gonna go straight down to this drip pan. So all you gotta do is just loosen up the drain and it'll start flowing. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there it goes. Here you see, he slowly drains out, but it's much cleaner this way than pulling out the whole drain plug. So we'll just let it drain like this. Come back in a minute after it's done draining. While we're waiting on the rest of the coolant to drain out from the radiator, we're going to go ahead and swap out this upper radiator hose. It almost looks like it's a little too long, but we'll just go ahead and fit it on and see how it comes out like. What you're going to do is just remove these two clamps. Once you get the old hose off, you want to head and remove the clamps off the old hose and put it onto the new hose. And then just put this hose back on. Okay. This should go right here. Okay. So it looked like it was a little bit long, but it actually fits just perfect. So next thing you gotta do is just move these clamps onto here, this one up here, and this upper radiator hose. Should be good for another 260,000 miles. That one's good. Go ahead and get this other side on. Alright, that's good. One upper radiator hose changed. So the oil, we already went ahead and filled up the oil. I put 4.5 quarts in already. We'll go ahead and top off this coolant, but before you top it off, make sure you go underneath the car and tighten up the drain plug. We're going to be using the Toyota brand antifreeze. This color is red, so Toyota uses this red formula. So it's full strength, so I had to mix it 50-50. So I just used distilled water and mixed it in with half a jug of this. I'm going to start pouring it in. Looks like she needs a little more. I'm just going to pour distilled water in here now. Alright, now since the bubbles stopped bubbling, all I'm going to do is just squeeze this upper radiator hose to try to push out the rest of the bubbles. Alright, just a little bit more. So once you get it to here, all you do is just crank up the engine, let it warm up, let it cycle, heat up. Once the thermostat gets hot enough, it'll open up and it'll start cycling all the coolant through the cooling system. Alright, once you get all the air bubbles out, you just go ahead and take the funnel out, put the radiator cap back on. We'll check the oil one last time, make sure the oil's good. All these are 12 millimeters. All you gotta do is just take them out, put the heat shield on, and then put the bolts back on, and then we're done with this part. When you have a panel that has like multiple fasteners on it, it's always a good idea not to go tight on all of them yet, just go finger tight. Sometimes the holes, they don't line up properly, so you'll have to have this just loose enough so you can align the holes properly so the bolts will go through. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of hand tightening everything to make sure that these bolts go into the hole. That seems about good enough. We'll just finish off with the drill and make it just a little quicker. Now we gotta get this intake tube on here. There's These two 10mm bolts right here. Gotta take these bolts out right here. And this snorkel just goes right onto the box right here. Line it with the two holes right here. Thread the bolts by hand. And then tighten her down. The next thing we gotta do is put the plastic covering piece on top of this valve cover. There's two studs coming off this valve cover, so we're just gonna line up the plastic covering piece with these two studs right here. Line it up, put the cover on, and then screw it down with the two nuts. Two 10mm nuts, we'll just put them on these studs and tighten her down. I'd be careful torquing these down. I'm just going to snug them down just to make sure this cover is not going to come off. Sometimes if you over torque it, you end up stripping the studs. Now this valve cover is kind of dirty because it's just been sitting around a while. So what I'm going to do to clean it up is just use this microfiber towel. All it is just water. I'm just going to wipe it down. Once it's wiped down, I'm going to come over with a dry microfiber towel and dry it off. It looks so much better right now. All that was just water and a microfiber towel. We'll do the same thing for these other plastic trim pieces. We're just going to wipe them down and then dry them off. Wow, let's take a look. If I didn't know any better, I would have never known that this car had its motor taken apart and the head gasket replaced. It looks really clean up here and really nice now. This pretty much wraps up our series on this 2007 Toyota Camry head gasket repair. We started from the beginning and went all the way to the end. Everything's put back together, the car is in good working condition, and it's time to use this vehicle as a daily driver just to beat around town. Join us next time on Garage Matters, and remember to hit that like and subscribe button.